Horror movies that were really cursed, part 1.
Annabelle Comes Home. During the filming of the movie, there were doors that were opening and closing, and there were shadowy figures that were spotted on location. When the whole cast was together on set for the first time, the lights went out and they asked, "Annabelle, are you there?" The lights then turned back on and Grace McKenna's nose started to bleed. But as soon as she left set, her nose stopped bleeding. Production notes also state that a piano bench moved around without explanation and that while visiting the set, a journalist's watch went haywire, skipping hours ahead. Fall for next horror movie.
Scariest unsolved mysteries during World War II, Part 2.
During World War II, Nazi propaganda popularized the idea of miracle weapons that were supposedly going to help Germany win the war.
One of these weapons were Die Glocke, German for the bell. This weapon was roughly 12 feet tall and had 2 rotating cylinders filled with a metallic liquid known as Serum 525. When this weapon was activated, this terrifying weapon would supposedly create a zone of effect around itself that would cause the blood to coagulate and the plants to decompose.
Yo ho, all hands hoist the colors high. Heave ho, thieves and beggars never.
Creepy facts you never knew existed too. If you think you are dreaming, and you want to find out if you are really dreaming, then find clocks. Because clocks will never be found in dreams.
What happened to this girl? So the internet is so concerned for this YouTuber named Kate Young. She made mukbang videos, and if you don't know what that is, they're videos where you're just eating and people are watching you. She was eating so much food in such a quick amount of time, as if she was being forced to eat. Her videos are also really concerning because you can see she's blindfolded in all of the videos to conceal her identity. And you would maybe think like, oh yeah, like she just doesn't want people to know who she is. That's fine, it's the internet. But on top of that, she looks like she's kind of being abused. Like, I don't know, I get a bruise here and there, but girl looks busted in her video. And behind the camera, you hear this person saying, faster, come on, things like that. She always looks super anxious in her video. But in these videos, she's eating so fast that she actually chipped her tooth in one and kept eating. When she chips her tooth, she shows it to the camera and it's literally rotted. She leaves hidden messages in her videos, like capital letters spelling out SOS or help in her sentences that she writes on the video. If you want a video of this, let me know. She also leaves Morse code messages in her videos saying SOS and help. I can show you if you want, just let me know. And at the end of one of her videos, you can see her mouth the words help me. Check out part 2 if you want to see theories about who she might be. Follow my TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for more content.
Hi friends. So I'm starting a new series talking about all the reasons why I think that Dr. Phil is not the lovable TV psychologist that we are all so familiar with. I have a lot of issues with Dr. Phil, ranging from the blatant exploitation of the guests that he invites onto his show, to the verified reports of him being inappropriate with a past patient, scamming his trusted viewers, as well as regularly inviting predators onto his platform to gain sympathy from his audience. I could talk about this for hours, so let's get started. So Phil McGraw, aka Dr. Phil, is a well-known TV host who has been on the air for the past 20 years. He has a PhD in clinical psychology, but he is not licensed to practice in any state in the US. So that we can better understand why this man is no longer licensed to practice, we're gonna need to rewind all the way back to 1988. So when Dr. Phil was 38 years old, he was working as a therapist in a private practice that he shared with his father in Texas. During this time, Dr. Phil made a huge mistake by hiring one of his patients, who was a 19-year-old female, to work for him at his practice. This issue alone raised a red flag that caused the Texas State Board of Examiners of Psychologists to become involved, as this is a massive ethical violation. During their investigation, this 19-year-old patient shared with the board that she and Dr. Phil had engaged in a brief physical relationship as well as a codependent relationship. According to this patient, after beginning treatment with Dr. Phil, he became overly involved in her life and went as far as to call her multiple times a day, demand what her whereabouts were, and even wanted to know what time she went to bed at night. She also shared an instance where she had an amazing opportunity to work for one of her professors at her college at Houston University, but when sharing this opportunity with Dr. Phil during one of their sessions, he reportedly did everything in his power to persuade her to work for him instead. She reported how she felt trapped and felt like her therapist had become dependent on her. And I will note that Dr. Phil was married to his current wife, Robin, during this time. Concluding their investigation, the Texas State Board publicly reprimanded Dr. Phil for his actions, and they also required that every single one of Dr. Phil's therapy sessions would need to be supervised for a full year before he could resume his normal one-on-one sessions. The Texas State Board's full report is still available online today. The board was also requiring that Dr. Phil had to take ethics classes before he could resume his practice. He had no interest in doing any of these things, so he simply moved and opened a consulting firm. 2006 was the year that Dr. Phil officially surrendered his license, but he was cited for practicing psychology without a license or certification in 2008. When you watch the Dr. Phil show, you will often hear him say to his guests, "I can't diagnose you in the short time we have together." But in reality, he cannot diagnose anyone with anything, period. He's completely unlicensed. This is literally just the tip of the iceberg. In part 2, we'll talk more about some of the victims he has invited onto his show to exploit for financial gain, as well as his role in Britney Spears' conservatorship.
Creepy Sounds from World War II, Part 7.
Retired soldiers on Reddit. What was something that you saw or experienced that you never shared with anyone? Using a throwaway because I've never told anyone before and I don't think I ever could. On a motorcade patrol in Afghanistan, our point vehicle struck an Eid. My best friend was thrown about 10 yards from the wreckage and impaled through the chest with a piece of metal. His face was blown half off. I'll never forget it. I recognized half of his face and the other half was shard bone. He died in my arms. About 2 years later, I finally got stateside and went to see his family. They told me he wrote to them every day, and when the letters stopped coming, they knew he was gone. His 5-year-old daughter asked me how her daddy died. I didn't know what to say. Posting this on a throwaway account. Long story short, killed an entire family during the Vietnam War without showing a single emotion. We were insensitive to even the most gut-churning things you could ever imagine. A father, mother, and 2 daughters. Our commander didn't give a shit if it had been nothing but school children in that house. Everyone had to die. They were accused of harboring weapons for the Viet Cong. I have nightmares every night. People who have survived school shoot, what was it like? My freshman year of high school 2013, on our first Thursday back after winter break, a student showed up to school late with a shotgun. He walked into his first period class and targeted students who had bullied him. The entire campus was on lockdown for what felt like hours. One thing that has stuck with me was my first period English teacher grabbing a pair of scissors and telling us that he was prepared to do what he had to do to keep us safe. I was in the room when one student shot another at our high school, then ran out of the building. This was the 80s, so there was no lockdown procedure. We all just left the building in various states of shock. I never felt threatened, so it really didn't affect me too badly. The victim lived and the shooter spent several years in the Indiana Youth Center with Mike Tyson and one of my best friends from high school. That's a bizarre sentence for you. I was in the STEM shooting. We heard 5 shots and sat in the corner for a little while, then some yelling. I heard some guy moaning in pain outside, then a bullet came through the wall and scratched my friend. We left to another corner, then there were 2 more shots. I was texting friends and family, and my friend texted me, "Want to play 8-ball pool?" The cops removed us. There was blood in the halls. We stood around in the cold for a couple hours. A friend of mine got shot in the leg 3 times, though she's okay now. Both of them are. After I was kinda messed up a few days after, which is kinda weird because of how close I was, but I don't want to sound bad, but I'm fine now, just like completely desensitized.